Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome. This is the Still Soul mental health space. I can figure out what my intro is going to be. But anyways, I do. I thought about it. I really do. Anyway, guys, see anything different?
No.
The place looks different?
What are you talking about?
What's happening? What's going on? Yes, I'm there, people. And we're here to do a really interesting video on myths, Jamaican myths about mental health. This may or may not be one video, but let's see what happens. So this is my friend Raquel.
What's up?
And we both studied psychology, different periods, but we both studied psychology. We're both very interested, passionate about mental health and mental health awareness, especially in the Jamaican context where there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of just lack of knowledge, lack of ignorance.
No, ignorance, not lack of ignorance.
I'm just saying lack of.
You said lack of ignorance. They're ignorant. They don't know. Ignorant literally means to not know, right? We just use it in a very derogatory way. It's a lot of ignorancy. It literally means to not know.
I'm gonna have fun posting this. Yeah, so let's just get into this video. Alright, so the first myth that we have here, the first Jamaican mental health myth that we have here is that men don't get depressed. I don't think this is like unique to Jamaica. I think there may be other cultures that believe that, but this is the culture that we're in. Men don't get depressed.
I think you find that in black communities.
Yeah.
In black communities, you find, men don't get depressed. Men, just do what they have to do. The fact that they do not express when they are stressed, pressured, sad, feeling emotional, or it makes them more likely to be depressed than a woman. Because we will act out our emotions and
we have that freedom.
We have a way to express our emotions, right? And it's allowed. It's just like, she just being moody. Just give her space. She bawling. That's a whole other thing. But we have an outlet. Mm-hmm. We can cry and people don't go, "How do you ball for?" No, people just write, "Oh, it's a woman." I mean, it sucks that you guys think that way, but
that's a
we have an outlet. Men,
not so much.
Man of a ball, cry, let it out.
But it's so ironic, and I was thinking about that. I mean, obviously men do get depressed. However, depression manifests differently, or the signs of depression in men are different than they are in women. So like in men, you'll see more aggression and more anger as opposed to crying and the more, like, I'm going to say, quote unquote, softer emotions that you probably see in women.
Yeah. So
angry outbursts, irritation, irritability, that kind of thing, that's probably what a depressed man would look like.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important for men to have activities like hobbies and things that they can do away from their families. Like if you're married or you're in a relationship or whatever, you still need something that does not include your partner, so that you have that freedom to release that. So you go out with the guys, you go up on one mountain top and scream out and shout out, go on range, do whatever, do some manly activities with the guys that helps you to release that. But if you're always with your woman, it's gonna be hard. Because if you want to be angry, you can't be angry. Like, why are you being so aggressive to me? Are you gonna hate me? No, it make it worse.
And that's something that I was going to touch on that. I mean, our society. So the myth is that men don't get depression, but they do. And it's that we're here talking about, men should have outlets to express their emotions, and men should, cry if they need to, blah, blah, blah. But the question I've had in my mind for months now is, does our society have the space and have the capacity to handle the kind of emotional release that we're asking men to have? Like, can our society handle it? Because on the one hand, we're like, oh, men should be more expressive, men should be more into their emotions, but then at the same time you may have one or two men who are a bit more in tune, and we're just like, oh, enough.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we have to be honest with ourselves and like strike the balance as a society of like, okay, we are requesting this from men, but what are we as a whole? Right. So that was a whole thing.
It's like telling hospitals, oh, you need to be able to take care of people better, but don't give them the resources to take care of people better. Whee!
Number two. And this is a 2-in-1. I didn't separate it, but this is a 2-in-1. So the second myth is that people with depression or people who commit suicide are weak-minded.
They're not.
Chances are they've done all that they can.
And chances are they gave a lot of warnings.
Chances are they're crying out for help and they're ignored.
A lot. Like, goosebumps.
I saw a quote somewhere, like years back. It says that suicide is the final fatal symptom or sign of depression. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, yeah. By the way, I just did a video recently on suicide. Starting that series on this channel.
It's gonna pop up here?
No, over here.
Over here.
Suicide conversations. Just a brief, introduction to what that series would be. So check it out. Not no after the video.
If this works, it works.
It gave me a card right here, so it's yours. Right. So yeah. Suicide, I mean, it's so easy. I find that it's so easy, especially in our society. It's so easy to judge people harshly who are experiencing depression, and their signs and symptoms of depression may be overt, and so you find that they're more withdrawn, they're more irritable, they have like emotional outbursts. And I think the kind of society that Jamaica is, and I mentioned it before, it's a very society like a rough, like a get over it.
Yes, just get over it.
Move on. Like, we're not on time.
Get over it.
All these things, but at the same time,
and get over it or keep it to yourself.
Right. And if you're there, and then with social media, it's so easy to put like people who are struggling mentally in this space to be easily ridiculed or ridiculed more by more people. So I mean, people with depression, people who are struggling with depression, and people who have decided that I'm going to take my life, they're not weak-minded. Sometimes they're exhausted.
Listen,
sometimes they're so exhausted, and it's just like they've tried every single thing. Every time they think that there's a way out, something else happens, and they're just like, oh my god, when does it end? And literally,
and while they're fighting with that, life is still happening.
Right.
Life
so
doesn't stop. So whatever issues were existing at work, at home, at school, wherever, they still have to deal with that, plus deal with themselves.
It's overwhelming.
It can be very overwhelming. And it's like, especially when they see other persons that have actually committed suicide and hear what people have to say about them. Like, oh, you didn't live the person didn't live nice life, so what them problem? And them just want attention.
That's a whole nother thing. That people with the people who commit suicide want attention. Attention from who?
And the worst thing you can do is,
and how are they gonna know that they get the attention if they're dead?
Like, and the worst thing you can do is like persons that are, you realize somebody's suicidal, think about everybody that you have to live for. So my life is not valuable outside of the people.
That's another video, and I'm gonna bring it back for that one.
But yes, what I'm getting at is they're not weak-minded. As Paula said, they're exhausted. They've gone to literally wits end. Like they feel no
And
level
all
of
things.
support, and even though sometimes they feel like, oh yeah man, people are around me,
They feel
but
like a burden.
it just feels like they're burdening other people, which makes it even worse. And
There's no
going
winning.
untreated without therapy, being depressed and undiagnosed, and all of these things, and sometimes
Misdiagnosed,
mm-hmm. misunderstood, and all of these things. Persons can have depression and be bipolar at the same time, and the mixture of comorbidities just makes it even more pressuring. And exactly. So imagine having to live with all of those things for so long. I would say that they're very strong and just got tired.
Yeah. Everybody have a breaking point, but I think
at
people's
some point,
breaking points look different.
Exactly.
For some, their breaking point would probably be, okay, you know what, I can't do this by myself, I'm going to seek help. For others, their breaking point may be, I don't want to live anymore.
Exactly.
So,
and some people are just naturally more self-aware than others. So somebody could be going through depression and not be able to sit with themselves and walk themselves through it. Where probably like someone like me and Paula, because we have the experience, can go, all right, I'm doing this, and this. What is going on? Come, let's have a round table conversation with ourselves. Like, and we can say, okay, all right, we can deal with this. We need to call back up.
Yeah.
Right? Not everybody has that level of self-awareness.
Also, not everybody have like the resources that they need.
And the resources. Yeah.
I mean, going to therapy, I will always say get therapy if you need it, but at the same time, it's expensive. It's very expensive, and if you don't have that kind of money on you, yeah. So they're not weak-minded. That's what we're trying to say.
Exactly.
Okay, so this third one is that, and I've heard it personally, I heard it in specific spaces. Even up to yesterday, I heard it. Or heard a whisper of it. But mental illnesses aren't real, and therefore, there is no need for treatment of such. So,
can we have a moment of silence for the people that think this way? Let me just put them before you.
Oh my God. So I think it boils down to education and the lack thereof, especially in the Jamaican society.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaican society is not one where talks of mental health was popular, or was more accessible, easily accessible. It's a bit more now because of the social media age, and you have like influencers who come out and talk about it. You have persons who, like myself, use their platform for this specific thing, but there are still persons who are unreached, or they just don't care to know. Mm-hmm. Some people are okay with being ignorant of the fact that mental illnesses are a thing. Your mental health is a real part of your whole health, and you need to pay attention to it. So mental illnesses are real, guys. I mean, if you haven't gotten that since you've been on this channel, mental illnesses are real. And it's a lot more than depression and anxiety. Those are the most common ones. But there are some real serious mental illnesses out there, some chronic ones that people need like serious treatment for, even in our own society. However, because there is that ignorance,
like dissociative disorder.
Let me tell you how I was just about to mention that actually. That disorder, I don't know how this is going to sound, but it actually fascinates me.
It does. It does fascinate me. In a very it sounds weird, but
it fascinates me. There's this YouTuber, actually, two of them I follow, and one I watched recently. Oh my gosh, it's Multiplicity and Me, and she went through a stage of dissociative identity disorder, DID, where all her alters fused together, and now she's whole because she's been going through like special therapy.
Wow.
And she's not fully integrated. That's a separate thing, guys.
I need to watch that.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Please.
It's actually really, like I was tearing up when I'm just like, oh my god.
Wow.
And mental health is so wide. Like even what we just talked about, persons who, because they've experienced such terrible trauma in early childhood, their brain just fragmented and created different realities and new personalities for them to just cope and survive the effects of the trauma. Like, those things actually happen, and I strongly believe that there are some people in our Jamaican society who experience a lot of these very chronic mental illnesses, but because we are not fully equipped, we're not fully educated on how to deal with it, how to identify this kind of treatment that we need. And of course, I mean, the few like psychologists and stuff that are in the public healthcare system, they're probably tired, and the resources the resources aren't there. Enough resources aren't there either. So I mean, yeah, but mental illness is very real, guys. It's very real. And treatment, early intervention saves lives. Early intervention helps. Imagine that you got news from a doctor that you have stage 1 cancer. And they're like, okay, it's at a stage now where we can treat it. We can we identify where it is. We can just, deal with it. But you tell yourself, say, I don't believe in cancer. I don't believe this is real. And so therefore, I'm going to just go on and do and live my life. Your ignorance isn't changing the fact that it's going to progress and it's going to get worse. And if you don't deal with it, you're going to die. So I'm not saying that with all mental illnesses it's going to end in death, but it can be very detrimental.
Yes. And
it's a lot to deal with. And so recognizing early signs, or recognizing signs early, and getting proper treatment and support can really help. So yeah.
And even with that, like there's certain mental disorders that can be avoided if certain traumas and certain situations are dealt with early. So if, for example, for a child, you train the child to be able to regulate their emotions from an early age, and say, oh, you're just being rude, go sit down over there. No, sit down. Okay, the gentle parenting.
I'm on that. I'm not parenting yet, but I'm on that.
The gentle parenting, have a conversation table. Lessens the likelihood of that child growing up to have anxiety. Or having to over-explain themselves, having fear of rejection, and all sorts of other things that comes with anxiety. Like, you can avoid having certain mental disorders from a very early age. If certain traumas, a lot of us go through traumatic situations, and then because it didn't almost cost us our life, we don't think that it's a traumatic situation. Good man.
You're wondering why you're so jumpy. And why in certain situations
you can't cope, you can't breathe, hyperventilate, all of a sudden you have sweaty palms. You're traumatized. Yeah. And not because it didn't cost you or almost cost you life, it wasn't a near-death experience, doesn't mean it wasn't traumatic.
And I think that's the thing. I think our outlook as a society is like, if you never kill you, you're alright. So because it wasn't that,
it makes you stronger
or traumatized. It makes you traumatized. But I think that because, and I guess it goes back to the whole resources thing. Like, we don't have enough resources to do like early intervention, those things. I see coming, do not sneeze. We don't have enough resources to do like early intervention, or to do that kind of what you're talking about. So it's just like, you're alright, you're good, you're function fine, okay then. Because you only have enough resources to handle like the critical, quote unquote, the critical stuff.
And don't only boil it down to resources, like stuff like that, especially in our society. We're literally just about 2-3 generations out of slavery.
That's all? I never more?
Jamaica celebrated what, 60 years? Okay.
That was like colonial rule, but like actual
slavery was still happening.
Up until that time?
Yes. Not everybody was actually free.
I really hope my history teacher is not watching.
Not everybody was actually free.
Really?
Yeah. Remember there was a period of time where slaves had to work for free?
Like,
what was that period called? There was a period of time after slavery was abolished. There was a period of time where slaves had to continue to work for a few years.
Yeah.
Before they were actually allowed.
Right.
Exactly. So we're literally just a few generations out of slavery. And a generation is 30 years. That's how it goes? I think a generation, I think it's so. A generation is 30. A generation is about 30 years apart. Right? So we're literally just 2 generations out of slavery.
Y'all getting mental health and history.
So that get up and brush it off mentality is still very fresh in us, because we never have got to break up and like, I'm feeling depressed.
HR.
You just literally had to, or great grandparents and great grandparents literally had to just get up and brush it off. Like, is that a brush it off or die? Like, survival instinct in us is just still very real, which is why you find like our generation will be into gentle parenting and whatever, and then you find like our parents like, no, Penny must get beaten.
Not my mother.
Not really my mother too, but she doesn't really like her new child. Not great. Well, but yeah, so that was my point. Like, because we still have that survival instinct very fresh in us, and the need to see our fellow black people like get up and like, yo, keep going, keep moving. We don't stop to really analyze the situation, because our brains are still, our genes still have that high survival instinct kicking, like, yo, we gotta keep going. But really and truly, sometimes you just need to stop and assess yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and ask for help.
We have a good while to go, and it's like,
yeah, this is gonna be like 3 parts.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop this one right here.
23 minutes.
I'm gonna stop this one right here because that's a lot to digest. Yeah. So those are 3 myths out of the 8 that we have here. But have you guys ever heard any of these? You know, if you're Jamaican and you know you're watching this video, have you ever heard any of these growing up? How did it shape your understanding of mental health and mental illnesses, and even your own awareness of like when you are experiencing mental health issues? So leave comments down below. Let's get that conversation started, and we will definitely be back in the same clothes, because yeah,
we're going nowhere.
And yeah, so don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course
subscribe.
You know, we're short of 50 subscribers, and I think that's really cool, because
and hit the notification bell.
Definitely, so you'll know when next I'll be posting. So see you in the next one, like literally
2 seconds from now.
Yeah.